Welcome to Binge Breakthrough, the podcast designed to help you finally break through the barriers that keep you stuck feeling out of control around food. I'm Master Certified Coach Jane Pilger, and I want you to know that no matter how long you've been struggling or what you've tried, food freedom is possible, and I'm here to show you how. After years of therapy, eating disorders treatment, restrictive diets, and reading all the books, I was still stuck in the on-again, off-again cycle of restricting and binging until I was able to see it all from a new perspective that changed everything. Each week, I will share the strategies, tools, and mindset that allowed me to overcome my decades-long battle with binge eating. Your journey to body trust starts now. Let's dive in. Hello, trusted listener. Welcome to Binge Breakthrough. I consider you a trusted listener because I trust that you are listening to this podcast for a reason. I trust that you're going to hear something today that is insightful and impactful on your journey with food. So as this episode is first aired, it is January 1st, 2025. And so today we're going to talk about ending binge eating this year. Now, it's possible that when you hear me say those words, end binge eating this year, that might bring up a lot of emotions for you. You might have started many other years with this same thought. Maybe you've told yourself, this is the year. But then you find yourself struggling months later, or even days or weeks later. But here's what I want you to know. Even if you haven't been able to end binge eating yet, it is possible for you. And if you haven't been able to end binge eating yet, there is a good chance that one of the 5 things that I'm going to share with you today has been missing from your approach. So I want you to listen to this episode with the question, is one of these things that she's going to share with me, is one or more of these things missing? Is there something here that I can pull out so that I can end binge eating this year? I want you to know that this year can be different. Not because you're going to try harder, you're going to be more disciplined, you're going to have more control, but because you are going to approach it differently. So today I'm going to share 5 things that will actually set you up for success so that you can end binge eating this year. So just think about these 5 things and see if these are things that you are doing for yourself. And if you are not, I am giving you a roadmap for how to end binge eating. All right, number 1, especially as this is coming out in January of 2025, my first encouragement to you is to set intentions rather than goals. Now, you might be thinking, wait a second, aren't goals good? I'm really good at achieving my goals, maybe in my career or in other areas. I love setting goals. And I know that there are many of you listening who are probably very successful in your professional lives and very successful in a lot of other areas of your life. There is a very common trend for people who struggle with binge eating to have a lot of success in other areas of their life. But when it comes to healing your relationship with food, traditional goal setting can actually work against you. And here's why. Goals tend to be rigid. They tend to really kind of amplify our all or nothing thinking. Goals are kind of like, I've either hit it or I haven't. It's black or it's white. I did it or I didn't do it. I succeeded or I failed. This is the exact type of thinking that often leads us to binge eating. When goals are this kind of rigid, all or nothing approach, they're often focused on outcomes we can't fully control. So rather than setting goals, my encouragement is for you to set intentions. Intentions are like North Stars. They guide your actions while also giving you flexibility in how you get there. So instead of saying, I will never binge eat again, you can say, you can set an intention to respond to your body's needs, to connect with your body, to be calm and connected and confident around food. You can set an intention for who you want to be, how you want to show up. A lot of times this intention can really be reflective in what I talk about with your identity as an eater. And I will post in the show notes a link to a previous podcast episode where I talk about your identity as an eater. It's very different to say, I'm going to change who I am as an eater. I want to become calm, connected, confident around food. That's very different than I will never binge again. The I will never binge again is focusing on the outcome. It's focusing on what you're doing rather than who you're being. So set an intention for who you want to be around food this year, who you want to be as an eater. That's number one. Now, the number two thing I want to encourage you for how to achieve ending binge eating this year is to create safety in your nervous system. Now, I've talked about your nervous system in several podcast episodes before, and I'm going to post a link in the show notes to one in particular, which is called What Happens When You Flip Your Lid. And I really go into detail about what happens in your brain, what happens in your nervous system when your brain senses danger. This is the amygdala. It's the part of the brain that is constantly scanning for danger. If you want to make lasting changes in your relationship with food, you need to know how to create a sense of safety in your nervous system. When you are in that threat mode, when you're in a panic mode, when you're in a high state of stress, think about when you are in that state and what typically happens with your food decisions. For so many people, food becomes a source of safety. When we don't feel safe, when there is a sense of danger or threat in our nervous system, food becomes that sense of safety. So what we want to do here is learn how to cultivate safety through other means. If we can cultivate safety in other ways, we don't need to use the food to do it. So know that when you are in survival mode, when your amygdala is sensing danger, sensing a threat, that logical reasoning brain, part of your brain, goes offline. So we can't just think our way to ending binge eating. That doesn't work. We have to focus on activities that help your nervous system feel safe. We can't just go and expect ourselves to make different food choices if the amygdala is still sensing danger. So some of those things might be just gentle movement, deep breathing, connecting with a loved one, just taking a moment to ground yourself in nature, with a pet. There are so many little things that you can do to create safety for yourself at any moment. This is a key part of ending binge eating. All right, the number 3 thing that is very important as you approach this year and ending binge eating is going to be this: make self-kindness non-negotiable. I cannot emphasize this enough. Self-kindness is not just a nice idea. It's not something that you just do after all of your eating problems are fixed. It's actually the avenue that will help you heal. Self-kindness is the way. So many people who struggle with binge eating are very harsh with themselves. There is a lot of criticism, a lot of judgment, a lot of shame. But here's what happens. When you're harsh with yourself, what you're doing is triggering the threat response in your brain. That amygdala is thinking, oh my gosh, there's even more danger. You become the danger to yourself when you are harsh and critical with yourself. And when you are harsh with yourself, and you trigger that threat response internally, you don't have access to all of those wonderful problem-solving abilities that you normally have in other aspects of your life. But when you respond to yourself with kindness, when you give reassurance to that amygdala that is always scanning for danger, what you do is you are creating the conditions that allow for real change. Self-kindness is not about letting yourself off the hook. It's about creating the emotional safety that you need for growth and to actually change the response, change the wiring, the response in your brain. All right, so number 4, build a sustainable support system. Now, I know that many of you are used to handling everything on your own. This was certainly me. I really prided myself in being the one who could do everything. I was the one that people came to for help. I didn't go to other people for help. I saw myself asking for help almost as a sign of weakness. I wanted people to come to me. I wanted people to see me as a person who could handle things, who didn't need anybody else. But that's actually not, when I really look back at the trajectory of my own healing, when I was thinking that I could do it by myself, when I didn't want to talk to anybody, that was when I was actually doing the things that were keeping me in the cycle. It was only when I reached out and I created a support system for myself, a support system of people who had been through what I had been through, who I knew would love me no matter what, who supported me no matter how I showed up or what I ate. It was in having that sustainable support system and people to talk to and work through my challenges. That is how I recovered, not by trying to do it on my own and by hiding and by being filled with shame and judgment over what I was doing. Healing your relationship with food is not meant to be a solo journey. It is possible. I don't want to say that it's not possible. I do know a handful of people who have been able to, on their own, navigate food challenges and struggles. But I will tell you that is very far and few between. The vast majority of people who end up overcoming their own food struggles, they do it with support. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to tell everybody in your life about your struggles. It means being intentional about creating support structures that work for you. So this might mean working with a professional who understands binge eating. It might be finding a community of others on a similar journey, or even just having one trusted friend that you can be honest with. Seeking support is not a sign of weakness. I really wish it did not take me years to discover this and to truly believe. It is amazing to me now when I really look at how much I ask for help, even in the little things around the house that I did not used to ask for help with. From the little things to the big things, I now see asking for support as a strategy that successful people use in every area of their lives. So why should this area around food be any different? Especially when you surround yourself with people who get it. Just before recording this podcast episode, I had a Cultivate call, a group, my group coaching program. And we were doing one of my favorite exercises in there, which is a food experiment where people bring a food that they have a challenge with to the call and we all work through it together. It's an incredible way to change your relationship with a particular food. And what this person shared was, I feel really safe here. I feel safe in this group, safe to talk about my concerns because I know who's here. I know that this is a group of people who all shares the same struggle. And I know that I will be guided and supported in a way that I'm not on my own. This is part of building a sustainable support system. And finally, number 5, focus on adding, not taking away. This is where so many traditional approaches get it wrong. They start with restriction, with cutting things out, with limiting or eliminating. My encouragement to you is to flip that script. So instead of thinking about what foods you should avoid or limit, especially here in January, as we start a new year, you are going to be getting messages everywhere to limit foods, to avoid foods, to cut foods out of your life. My encouragement is for you to start thinking about what you can add to your life. What foods do you enjoy? What activities make you feel good in your body? Can you add new foods that maybe you haven't tried before? Go walk down the produce aisle and see if there are some different fruits and vegetables that you normally don't eat that you could add. What can you add into your life? What forms of self-care could you explore? Are there ways we could also combine this with self-kindness? How can I add more self-kindness into my day-to-day experience of life? When we focus on restriction, we activate the threat response in the brain. Remember the amygdala we were talking about? Restriction, eliminating things, it makes our amygdala think, alert, alert, something's come. This is not good. This is dangerous. But when we focus on adding positive elements to our lives, we create an environment of abundance rather than scarcity. All right, so these are the 5 things I want to encourage you to look at as you approach this year and ending binge eating this year. But I want to be really clear. Implementing these 5 things, and I will review them with you in just a minute. Implementing these 5 things, it's not about being perfect. It's about creating a foundation for change that will last. You might have days where you struggle with all 5 of these things, and that's okay. We are striving for progress here, not perfection. All right, so what were those 5 things again? Let's review them as we wrap this up. Number 1, the 5 key things that can help you end binge eating this year. Number 1, set intentions rather than goals. Focus on the direction that you're moving rather than rigid endpoints. Decide who you want to be, no matter how much you eat. Number 2, create safety in your nervous system. You can't make lasting changes when you're in survival mode. Number 3, make self-kindness non-negotiable. It's not just nice. It's necessary. Number 4, build a sustainable support system. This journey was not meant to be walked alone. And number 5, focus on adding, not taking away. Create abundance rather than scarcity in your life. Now, as we start this new year, and this episode coming out on January 1st, 2025, I want you to know that change is possible. Not because of some magic New Year's motivation, but because you are learning to work with your brain instead of against it. You are learning to respond to yourself with kindness instead of judgment, and to build sustainable practices instead of quick fixes. Now, I want you to know that everything that we've talked about and so much more is covered in my book, The Binge Eating Breakthrough. And if you're ready to dive deeper into these concepts and create lasting change in your relationship with food, I encourage you to get your copy today. I'm also super excited to announce that I am putting together a special book club where we can go through the book together and you can ask me any questions that you have. I am only going to do this one time now that the book just came out, but I'm really excited to be able to do this with you together. I don't have all of the details together just yet as I'm recording this episode. So to make sure that you don't miss out on this opportunity and the details for this book club that will be coming very early, probably my guess is February of 2025, head over to my website. Make sure you are on my mailing list. I will be sharing all of the details about the book club soon, and I'd love to have you join us. Thank you for starting this year with me. Remember, you are not alone on this journey. You can end binge eating this year. I would love to be a part of you ending your binge eating this year. And it starts with this podcast. It starts with these 5 things. Set intentions, not goals. Create safety in your nervous system. Make self-kindness non-negotiable. Build a sustainable support system and focus on adding rather than taking away. All right, that's what I have for you this week. I'll see you next time. If you like what you're hearing on the podcast, you will love my new book, The Binge Eating Breakthrough: Why Food Isn't the Problem and What Really Is. Discover why willpower isn't the answer, why restricting certain foods often backfires, and why understanding your brain and body is the key to lasting change. Learn to shift from shame and self-blame to curiosity and compassion. Get it today at janepilger.com/book.